This fight showed the world's second-largest army's flaws. Russia has a massive troop and weaponry advantage, yet it struggles to win against a smaller opponent. What makes the Russian army ugly? Because of Russia's tactics, or because Ukraine has significant Western support to resist Putin's ambitions? Another argument is that Russian weapons are of lower quality than advertised. Show you how awful Russian weapons are. From peak to crisis, Russian weaponry. During the Cold War, Russia's weaponry was known for its durability and functionality, even if lacking the advanced features of its American counterparts. The T-34 tank, introduced in 1940, was Russia's most successful tank, featuring sloping armor and a suspension system that made it more maneuverable. This focus on practical design carried over into other Russian military exports, such as the AK-47, which became the standard infantry weapon for 106 countries. In the 1980s, Russia was a major weapons exporter, with sales averaging $40 billion annually. However, exports began to decline in the 1990s, dropping below $20 billion between 2000 and 2004. Despite a brief resurgence, Russian exports fell again, with its global market share dropping from 22% in 2013-2017 to 16% in 2018-2022. Sales to India, Russia's largest customer, dropped by 37%, and sales to 7 of its top 10 customers fell by 59%. The Ukraine war has further exposed the deterioration of Russian weapons. Many captured Russian weapons, including helicopters and armored vehicles, are faulty and unable to withstand small arms fire. Russia's rockets have a 33% success rate, and its Ka-52 attack helicopter, described as a flying tank, can be disabled by a 7.62 machine gun. This has led many countries to turn to other suppliers for their military needs, revealing the gap between Russia's Soviet-era reputation and the actual quality of its current weapons. Deeper, look at Russia's arsenal, T-90. Russia's T-90 tank, once a symbol of Soviet-era military strength, has proven vulnerable in the Ukraine war. While it was a major upgrade over the T-72 and T-80 tanks with reactive armor and a 125 gun, it was exposed during Russia's Chechen and Syrian wars. Drones and modern anti-tank systems like the Javelin, which Ukraine received 7,000 of in April 2022, have further exposed its weaknesses. By October 2023, Russia had lost over 2,100 tanks, with 60 T-90s among them. Despite being its most advanced tank, Russia has deployed fewer T-90s in Ukraine, relying on older models like the T-72, T-62, T-54, and T-55, some over 70 years old. In response to modern anti-tank weapons, Russia introduced cope cages, a makeshift defense, but these have failed to prevent heavy losses. The T-90, while still capable, is increasingly ineffective against advanced weaponry it was not designed to counter. Russian missile. You heard Emisakaru Donatas say Russia's missiles are inaccurate. He investigated this claim in 2022, alleging that expert tests of Russian weapons in Ukraine indicated that the 3M-14 cruise missile launched from the water had a 33% chance of striking its objective. Worse, 30% of these missiles targeted civilian targets instead of military ones. A March 2022 Reuters report supports those claims. It referenced 2 anonymous U.S. sources who claimed Russia's missiles were failing up to 60% in the first 2 months of the war. Reuters hypothesized that these failure rates may have prevented Russia from establishing aerial control early, despite its stronger military. It also explains why Russia had trouble capturing objectives before Ukraine received Western help. The U.S. claimed Russia fired 1,100 missiles into Ukraine by March 25, 2022. If the 60% failure rate is accurate, 660 missiles either missed their targets or didn't detonate. Reuters interviewed military specialists who regarded a 20% failure rate as high. A 60% rate is disastrous. Defense News believes that, like Russian tanks, missiles have lagged behind modern technology. It reported fewer Russian missile assaults on Ukrainian infrastructure in May 2023. That was after a year of missile strikes becoming more important, which was a warning that Russia wasn't reaching its goals. The site says a typical missile-heavy plan would start with an early bombardment, like in the early months of the war, then slow down after eliminating important infrastructure and military locations. Nothing like that happened. Defense News attributes this to inadequate Russian intelligence and outdated targeting capabilities. For Ukraine, Russian missiles are too easy to shoot down, presuming they reach their targets. Old weapons, glider bombs, planes. Russia is resorting to glide bombs such as the 1.5-ton FAB-1500 and 3.4-ton FAB-3000 to strike Ukraine. These outdated bombs are fitted with wings and released from behind the front lines, gliding to their targets. While modern missiles should offer greater accuracy, these bombs cause massive damage even when they miss, highlighting Russia's struggle with malfunctioning weaponry. Russia's Air Force faces severe challenges. By February 2024, Ukraine shot down 342 Russian planes and 325 helicopters, despite Russia having the world's second strongest air force. The VKS is also struggling with aircraft availability and maintenance, especially after losing many planes, including modern Sukhoi models, which are now as vulnerable to being shot down as older jets. Reports indicate that several of Russia's planes, like the Su-34, have surpassed their expected flight hours, exacerbating their vulnerability. They're mechanically exhausted because they're flying longer hours than they were meant for. Increased hours require additional maintenance, which the UK Ministry of Defence says is an issue for the VKS. Due to rising demand and international sanctions, spare parts are scarce, complicating extra maintenance. The August 2023 RAND report reveals that Russia is still transitioning from Soviet-era aircraft, struggling to produce new planes fast enough. As a result, half of its fleet consists of modified Soviet-era jets. The Russian Air Force, the VKS, has faltered in Ukraine due to reliance on outdated military technology. Soviet-era aircraft, which can fly for 2,000–3,500 hours, are well below the 3,500–4,500 hours of modern military jets. RAND estimates that by summer 2024, combat losses and aging airframes will reduce the VKS to 75% of its pre-war strength. Russia's Su-57, a fifth-generation stealth fighter, has not been used in Ukraine, partly due to a shortage of only 10 aircraft. Despite claims of advanced capabilities, the Su-57 has faced production delays and technical issues, including a radar cross-section similar to the non-stealthy F-A-18 Super Hornet. This weak stealth performance may explain why Russia hasn't risked deploying it, fearing it could be easily shot down. In summary, the use of outdated and unreliable aircraft, including the Su-57, demonstrates why Russia cannot dominate Ukraine's airspace. But what about the seas? Russia's Navy, with around 750 assets, is the largest in the world, and its Black Sea Fleet was expected to dominate the seas around Ukraine. However, Ukraine's smaller navy has significantly crippled the Black Sea Fleet, destroying a third of it by March 2024, including the Kostiantin-Olshansky amphibious ship in Sevastopol. Russia's only successful amphibious operation in the early war was in Odessa. Ukraine's defense against Russia's navy included missile and ammunition strikes on surface ships. Despite Russia's naval size, it relies heavily on outdated Soviet technology. Admiral Nakhimov, for example, still uses 1980s-era weapons and lacks modern capabilities like hypersonic missiles. While Russia had 14 years after the 2008 Georgia War to modernize its navy, it remains underfunded and inadequate for the demands of the war in Ukraine. Its focus has been on continental defense, not naval assault, and after the Soviet Union's collapse, Russia reduced its fleet by 75%, hindering its ability to compete globally. Despite some modernization, Russia's Navy still resembles its Soviet-era counterpart. Russia's naval support failure, tactical weakness. Russia's military strategy still focuses on land-based defense, which limits its naval capabilities. Despite Russia's historical success in using naval support during World War II, it struggled to provide direct naval aid to its army in the Ukraine war. The Navy appears strong but is undermined by outdated Soviet ships and flawed strategy. Russia's military also faces significant issues with equipment, particularly body armor. While it claimed in 2017 that 2,200 Ratnik II suits would be delivered by 2020, reports from 2022 suggest many soldiers received inadequate or counterfeit armor, with some conscripts forced to buy their own. Corruption has exacerbated this problem, with stolen armor kits being sold online. Russia's reliance on outdated technology extends to its nuclear arsenal. While Putin has threatened to use tactical nuclear weapons, the condition of Russia's aging nuclear stockpile is questionable. Decaying parts, including tritium, and lack of maintenance raise doubts about their reliability. The combination of corruption, obsolete technology, and a focus on prestige weapons like the Su-57, which don't work, has significantly weakened Russia's military capabilities. The Ukraine war has exposed these issues, leading many countries that once bought Russian arms to seek alternatives. We examined Russia's strategy and weapons weaknesses. Their military capability is weak despite their showy appearance. What's the Russian army's future in this context? Share your thoughts in the comments and share the video to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching. See you next time.